Hey there, web developers. In this video today, we're going to go through how to use the HTML5 input color picker to select a color and apply it towards an element in our web page. So to begin with here, I've got my editor open on a blank HTML document, and to create a color picker element, you just simply create an input element and set the attribute of type to color. And that, at its bare minimum, is all you need to actually bring about the color input picker. So if I go to my browser here and take a look at how, this is Google Chrome, how they've implemented a color picker, you can see it's added this element to my page here. If I click on it, it gives me the color picker. And I can go through and select any color. And it gives me the RGB value, it gives me the HSL value, and it gives me the hex value. There's even an eyedropper tool here, so I can go through and finally select different colors as needed, and again it keeps giving those different hex values, which is super useful. And then each browser, they kind of implement this a little bit differently. So if you took a look at Safari and you looked at their color input picker, you can see here that they give a different interface for how to select your colors. If you're familiar with Max at all, this is the same color picker interface you would see in any other Apple-built application. So in Numbers or in Keynote, etc. This color picker is the same, so it's the same across all their products. And Firefox also has a slightly different instance of it here. Take a look at Firefox, although it's more similar to the Safari one, but this is Firefox's version of what a color picker looks like. Again, eyedropper tool, you can go through and select your colors, and there's even a grayscale slider here. But I really like the way Chrome does this, especially when they're giving you these values down here. That's just super easy to access the values of the colors that you're selecting. So selecting these colors is kind of cool, or looking at a color picker is kind of cool, but let's actually make this a little more functional, and we'll add a little code into our website here so that we can apply this to some other elements here. So I'm going to add in some style here. Actually, I'm going to add in some more elements here. And I've already got my input created. We're going to add a div for some controls. Controls, that's great. And then we'll add a label element here. Label color change. And we'll say this is going to be pick your color. We'll close that label. We've got our input. We're going to add some additional attributes here. So we're going to set an attribute of value. This is going to be the default attribute for the default attribute value for the color that's pre-selected. So we've got white here. That's the hex value for white. And let's give it an ID, because we're going to write a little JavaScript here as well. And we're going to call this element here with its unique ID. And we'll add in a little text. We want to say hex value. We're gonna print out to the screen here what our actual hex value is. So we'll say ID equals hex value, and that's a span. And we're going to give it a default value here. We're going to match the same default value that we're putting in as our input color for our color picker. We're going to set that as the default value on this span here that we're going to print. And we'll click save to that. Looks like I didn't close my div here, so let's close my div. All right, so now if I refresh, okay, so now we've got a little more functionality here. We are saying pick your color. Really all we've done is just add some HTML markup to our fields here, but it still doesn't have the functionality that we're looking for in terms of truly adding color to a different element, right? So this still works the same way as I showed before. I'm just going through and selecting the different colors, and it doesn't change down here. So it's not changing the value down here. So we can accomplish this with some simple JavaScript. So let's add a little JavaScript into the head here. My editor doesn't like what I'm doing. All right, we'll say close that. And for sake of speed here, I'm just going to copy this over and paste it in, and I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, so this is our JavaScript. And what I've done is I've created two variables. The first one is a variable just called color changed, and another variable called initial color with a string value of white. So it's got that pound FFF, FFF. We're adding an event listener of load, and we're calling the function change my color. And here's that change my color function right here. So function change my color. And what we're going to do is we're going to call that variable color change equals document.querySelector with a hash of color change. So if we go down here to our div, here's that ID selector of color change right here on the input. Color change.value equals initial color. So we're setting what the color change value is, and we're passing it to the variable of initial color. And then color change.add event listener input, we're updating. So we're going to update what those color values are in the change my color function. And then we have the function update event, which is document.body.style.background color. So now we're going to target the body of our web page, and we're going to set the value as well for whatever color we selected to be the same color as the background of the body. And then we did a document.getElementById hex value.innerHTML also equals the value of that. And the hex value.innerHTML, as you can remember, was the span that we created down here where we're printing out what the current color value is. So we're basically just going to reprint that color value as we load it. All right, and I've got in here some style rules as well. And this file will be available. There's a link in the tutorial here on our website. You can just download the source file if you want to reference it. But there's some basic style rules applied here to the different divs or different elements, but it's nothing super tough. So if I hit refresh this time, all right, so it's starting off with that default color value of white, FFF. And if I click on this and then select a color value, it changes the body of my web page to the color value that I've selected, and it's printed to the web page the selected color value, which is pretty slick. And I can really change it to anything here. You can see how that changes just using that color input picker on my web page. So this is super powerful. You could use this a whole bunch of different ways, right? You could have this really changing the color of divs or text or anything that you could set a color element against. You can use the color input picker to do that. You could have multiple on a page as well. You could have multiple color pickers. There's no limit to the number of color pickers that you're using. So super useful and kind of fun to play with a little bit. All right, thanks for watching. This was a super easy tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below. I'd love to hear from you. And catch us on the next video. Thanks.